It's just the second day of negotiations to avoid yet another government shutdown, but it seems like Donald Trump is already ready to throw in the towel.
If they don't have a wall, I don't even want to waste my time reading what they have, because it's a waste of time. If there's no wall, it doesn't work. And we're building the wall right now. I mean, a lot of people don't know that.
For their part, Democrats are confident in the bipartisan committee's ability to negotiate a deal.
There's not going to be any wall money in the legislation. It is not a negotiation for the president to say, what did he say today? It doesn't matter what Congress does.
So with the February 15th deadline fast approaching, it seems just about the only thing the two sides can agree upon is this.
I hope this serves as a lesson to President Trump and all of my Republican colleagues. No more shutdown.
I don't like shutdowns. I don't think they work for anybody. And I hope they'll be avoided.
As do I, and I imagine my next guest is hoping that too. I'm joined by the new vice chair of the House Democratic Caucus, Congresswoman Katherine Clark. Congresswoman, congratulations, and it's good to see you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Thanks. 15 days and counting till the deadline. Chuck Todd from Meet the Press was on the radio with Marjorie Egan and me today, and I asked him if there was any chance the Democrats would agree to some kind of physical barrier. Here's what Chuck had to say.
I think it's possible they give him up to 700 miles, but I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. By the way, I don't think you're going to see a lot of DACA in here that's permanent. Maybe there's some temporary stuff.
I was knocked off my feet. He's a pretty smart guy. 700 miles of wall from the Democrats when Speaker Pelosi says no wall, no physical barrier, and nothing more than maybe a redone temporary deal on the Dreamers. Is he on to something? Is he right?
Well, I don't know. This is the second day of the conference committee, and I think we have to let them do their work. I'm not sure where he gets a 700 miles. What we've been talking about is, yes, we are willing to reinforce existing barriers, but our focus is doing that with technology, strengthening our ports, getting personnel, immigration judges. Those are the things that are on the table.
But no new physical barrier.
It's very hard to negotiate with the president over his constant changing of what a wall is. I think what Nancy Pelosi has been clear is a big cement wall from shore to shore is not going to be anything that the Democrats support.
But you're not saying no to non-shore to shores. I mean, you asked a minute ago, I don't know where that's coming from. I think where it's coming from, I surely won't speak for Chuck, is he mentioned the 2013 Gang of Eight deal, which, by the way, 54 out of 54 Democratic senators agreed to, which had 700 miles of wall in it. You know that last January, your fellow Democrats agreed to $25 billion, forget $6 billion for the wall. And while Nancy Pelosi calls it a moral, and I think you called it a political applause line yesterday, Democrats have agreed in the past to exactly what Donald Trump's looking for now. So why not give it to him?
Because the 2013 deal was part of comprehensive immigration reform. What the president has been willing to do is say, for the first 2 years, we're going to turn down $25 billion, but come December, when he gets pressure from far-right commentators, he's willing to scrap everything and hold the federal employees hostage for a wall that he hasn't defined. What we're saying is, let's be effective about border security. Let's go with what the data is showing us. I don't expect that's going to be a wall.
But just to be clear, Congresswoman, and then we'll move on, you are not saying absolutely in Sherman-esque fashion, under no circumstances could some additional physical barrier be part of a deal. You're not saying that, are you?
Yeah, we've always maintained that we want to do things that are smart and effective
but
and
could
using
it include
technology.
A physical barrier?
We have physical barriers there now.
Could it include additional physical barrier?
If that is what the data shows is needed, but that is not what the president's talking about. He's never put forth a plan for what he means. And so to once again be threatening this wall and money for the wall, or he's going to take our federal employees and our economy hostage again, is irresponsible.
Would you agree with the Democrats agree to a deal that did not include a permanent path to citizenship for the so-called Dreamers, for the DACA recipients?
I think that we're going to see what this conference committee can do and the contours of it.
You know, you and your colleagues, you have been outspoken in criticism of the president, talking about him not telling the truth. We talked about this last night. Do you and your colleagues ever say to yourselves, you know, maybe it's not just strategic telling of lies, But maybe the leader of the free world is not mentally stable. Maybe he is divorced from reality. Do you worry about that? And if you do, what do you do about that?
I do worry about that. I worry that a lot of what we hear and we assume is purposeful misleading of the American people maybe really is Donald Trump's reality. And the implications for that, an alternative reality where he rejects any questioning of that as fake news or people out trying to get him or question him politically, which I think is a very dangerous position. But the only thing that we can do as members of Congress, and by only, I don't mean to make that sound pejorative, we have a constitutional obligation to exercise oversight. And that is exactly what the Democrats are going to do. And there's lots of talk about impeachment, but that isn't our only tool that we can use. And we are going to be investigating. The Oversight Committee has already sent 51 letters with questions to this administration about areas they want to look into.
Well, there's also the 25th Amendment and the Section 4, which says if a president is unable to carry out his duties. Is that something you all are exploring?
There has been discussion about that. A lot of that will come down to the cabinet secretaries. So we're going to do what's within our constitutional obligation and responsibility.
You're one of the sponsors of a bill to implement something that 90% of the American people support, background checks.
Yes.
Even if that passes the House, and the assumption is there'd be votes there, even if it was Democrats only, do you harbor any notion that a Republican-controlled Senate would ever go along with something as basic as that is, or is this just a statement being made by House members?
Well, I think the Republicans in the Senate should be looking at the results of the midterm, where this issue around gun safety and preventing gun violence just continued to rise in the polls. And it was very much part of Democrats' wins in such a huge way and a historical win in the midterms. So if they're concerned about 2020, which I know they are, I hope that is going to bring an ability to break loose from the NRA and make the right decision.
Talking about the takeover of the House that by the Democrats, Massachusetts has gained colossal power. You're amongst the leadership team. As we know, I think you're the sixth-ranking Democrat in the House. Jim McGovern, who'll be with us on the radio tomorrow from Worcester, is the chair of the House Rules Committee. No one knows what it does.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. Richie Neal from Springfield, Ways and Means. What's that mean for us back home to have people, in addition to your colleagues, what's it mean to have three people in serious leadership positions? What does that mean for the folks back home?
It's good news for the people at home, and it's good news for my constituents.
In what way?
That we can take the issues that we deal with here and actually move them forward. And to have the chairman of Ways and Means, to have the chairman of Rules, and we also, Steve Lynch has a key subcommittee chair. Those are places where we can take issues like the opioid crisis, like our infrastructure needs, and really put them to work in policy.
How are the veterans? I mean, you've been there 3 terms, so you're not a huge veteran, but you're a veteran. How are the veterans reacting to the new kids in town? Like the fact that Ocasio-Cortez probably gets more press and attention than anybody except Nancy Pelosi. Is there some jealousy? I know some Democrats are actually talking about finding somebody to run against her in a primary. How are the new kids being received? And are you mentoring some of these people? Did I read that?
Yeah, part of what I'm doing in vice chair is setting up a mentorship program for them, but I can tell you that they are breathing new life into it, and I think it is great. We have the most diverse caucus that Congress has ever seen. And what I see as my job is to make sure that we are using them and incorporating those new ideas. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a great communicator, and she is speaking and bringing young people into a political fold in a way we haven't seen before. And I think that's something the Democrats should embrace.
None of you are upset with her?
Well, I'm sure there's, we have a big egoed capital, and, people don't like to share the limelight always. But I think in general, she is good to work with. She's a good colleague, and I think that her ideas are almost uniformly embraced.
Katherine Clark, it's good to see you.
Thank
Thanks so
you
much for your time. I really appreciate it, Congresswoman Katherine Clark.